All right, we're going to get ready to build a mix in our little journey here of arrangement things in Ableton. And what is this right here? That's just CPU cycles, just cranking right up there at 50% idle. This is a fat-bottomed, wide-flapped, corn-fed session that is not uncommon to me. I like to jam on all the plugins and all the stuff, and I'm on a laptop. Okay, so there's two things. There's this number right here, and then there's disk errors. If you see lights here and D lighting up, that's slow disk. That has to do with asking. Ableton asking for this vocal, Ableton asking for this sample, Ableton asking for this automation. Okay, so the first line of defense has nothing to do with Ableton at all and everything to do with the computer itself. The first thing is search big files. Oftentimes somebody will have 500 gigs on their thing and they'll have 4 gigs left, and that doesn't work. So you have to get it down to where you have as much open space as possible. All right, so search big files is an application in your utilities folder. I forget if it's freeware or if it's installed, but all this does is you can set a size, say search for 500 megs, and it uncovers some surprisingly big files. So that is the way that I get rid of stuff off my hard drive. The second is disk utility. That's in the utilities folder under applications. And this repairs permissions. In the case of doing audio or working on your computer at a bunch, a lot of times files get broken permissions. And it's beyond the scope of this conversation, but basically files that have permission errors can't be accessed. Okay? This next one you're going to have to buy. It's like $50, but I can't do anything without it, actually. Here's what it does. Basically, when you record a bunch of audio and do a bunch of video and a bunch of social and all the kinds of stuff you do, your disk gets fragmented. And basically, this is like having a 9,000 page book that, every 10th page is ripped out and put in the wrong order. And so you can have a vocal that supposedly was supposed to record in one whole stretch, but is spread about from here to there in a fragmented way. So this defrags and optimizes the disk. And then the last one is Activity Monitor. This is in your utilities folder. And right now I have it open and it's just right here. I can actually see this little screen finder preview is right there. It's taken 134 megs of RAM. Okay. Live is sitting there at 2.6 gigs. And I can get in here and see exactly what's going on. My screen recording software that I have to have on is right there. I'm recording audio out of Ableton with this. There's a lot of stuff in here that I don't need and I can just quit. So I can quit this calendar agent. I can quit a lot of different prefs that get loaded. Native Instruments hardware. I don't have any hardware from Native right now. PhotoStream. Don't need that. Okay, and you just go right through and optimize what's currently going on. This is if you're in the middle of a mix. These are all preferences, and I might just quit them and they might just start back up again. But those interfaces are not even plugged in right now. Okay, iTunes. And you can just go through with Activity Monitor and delete stuff. Give it more RAM. Okay. Back with Live, when I start playing, you can see these threads. It's getting right up to the top here. All right, let's get busy down in here now. Disk speed. Audio requires faster disks, so if you go to your system preferences and find out how fast your disk is by more info here. And you should have ideally a 7,200 RPM drive. A lot of guys are running 5,600, and that in and of itself can be problematic. Second thing is, are you running 32-bit Ableton or 64? All this, of course, depends on your machine. But right here is 64. Okay, and you make sure that you're in 64. And that goes also along with multi-core. The reason everybody went to 64 bits is because 32 bits could only access a little bit of RAM, okay? And 64 bits can access as much RAM as you have. And so you want to go to CPU tab of preferences and make sure you have multi-core, multiprocessor support on. Okay. The other thing is buffer size. When you're recording and you're, doing vocals, you want a pretty low buffer size, but when you're mixing, you can jump this up to quite a bit higher. Okay. The other thing is if you have open channels, open I/O, if I got in here on this outputs and added a bunch of these channels, it's likely that you'll see this go up, because each one of these open channels is causing Ableton Live to sit there and look, is there something there? Do I need to be paying attention? And this goes for both in and out. So when you're mixing, you need no inputs. You just need one stereo output, and you just have to get it like that. The next thing is RAM. Under all my samples, if I double click every one of these, I've got this designation right here. And if you go to your help tag, this is clip RAM mode. You can read all about this. I have 8 gigs of RAM on this machine, not a whole lot, but it'll do. And I need to get as many of these clips into RAM as I can. Okay, to ease the pain on my disk. If I were to select track content, and that's all in RAM, select track content, that's all in RAM, etc. So you want to make sure that as much of this is in RAM as possible. Okay, plugins. Right here, this guy's vocal. And I've got some of these newer style plugins, like these Jack Joseph plugins, are actually 5 or 6 other Waves plugins with a skin on them. I don't know that as a fact, but I just suspect it. And if you watch this monitor, as soon as I go off these, I'm going all the way down to 30%, and my activity monitor is down to 62%. Okay, so if you have process heavy plugins, what you'd want to do is take, the duration of that track, of that vocal, and freeze it. Just like so, right click, freeze track, and it'll freeze. Right there, you saw it drop. And this gray hash here, this little stuff here, that's where I have reverb tails and overhang. Okay, and you can edit a freeze track pretty much just like any other track. And you can see that it really lowered my CPU. And of course I can unfreeze or flatten it if I wanted to just make a stem copy of it out of the master. The other thing quickly would be any heavy automation, a lot of stuff that has a lot of nodes. I don't have anything in this session, but you might consider smoothing that out or flattening that as a track. And then lastly, I've noticed that these MIDI to harmony, MIDI to rhythm, and MIDI to melody Ableton plugins are total ram suckers. So do these things and you'll have a better mix and minimize the possibility of audio dropouts. Cool.